Thank you again for participating to this first focus group, and good afternoon to everybody. And the aim of this focus group is to enlarge the project vision on users and clinician needs, and to bring our solutions to patients and clinicians in an effective way. So I'm the scientific and technical manager of the project, and I'm going to just introduce briefly the project, starting from its objectives. Basically, BRAINTEASER wants to bring artificial intelligence at home and in clinics for better care of amyotrophic lateral sclerosis and multiple sclerosis. And this is meant to be done by developing AI models for patient stratification and disease progression prediction, and to use models in real life to inform patients, help clinical decisions, simulate in silico trial, and provide personalized medicine suggestions. And in all this, we want to keep healthcare professionals and patients in the center of our action. And the vision of the project is based on 7 main pillars that are listed here. And in the next slides, I'm going to go through these 7 different pillars briefly, but one by one. First of all, we want to build a comprehensive overview of health. And this starts from the focus on the final user needs. So we want to start from the needs, the language, and the context of the final user. And so, for example, from the first co-design workshop we had, we were able to focus some needs of the clinicians and of the patients. So, for example, clinicians needs the models to be developed can help to deepen the disease understanding, can support a view of the disease dynamic, suggest personalized therapeutic decision, prevent adverse events, or indicate the need of intervention, and guide clinical trial design and analysis. On the other hand, patients that experience, let's say, a lot of uncertainty about the progression of the disease, need information on their future, needs being assisted in their daily needs, need suggestions on healthy habits, and systems raising arms in case of early risk predictions. To build this comprehensive overview of health using artificial, we base part of our project, and we base model development on data richness and availability of longitudinal data, both prospective data collected with mobile and sensors and wearable sensors, and a large collection of clinical retrospective data. In addition, we are also collecting both retrospective and prospective data from environmental sensors to calculate the patient exposure to pollutants. And based on this data, we are going to learn AI-based model that will be learned on the data, but will be also validated and tested on the data. Data comes from 4 main clinical centers in Madrid, Torino, Lisbon, and Pavia. Once we have the model, we can use it to give feedback to patients through app and to clinicians through dashboards and programs. Just to give you a couple of examples of what can be done, models can be used for patient stratification, so define subgroups of patients characterized by personalized diagnostic, prognostic, or a different treatment. or we can obtain a robust set of biomarkers or predictors of disease progression and use them to build model-based models able to build predictive models able to somehow predict the disease progression in terms of individual probability of belonging to a specific temporal phenotype. Also, we can use these models to quantify the severity of symptoms and monitor the disease state, and also, of course, to detect early complications, reason about which features are important to predict and prevent adverse outcome, and implement alert mechanisms. In order to be effective, all these must be based on technology. So we have data from clinical reports, sensors, questionnaires, and storytelling. We can give feedback to clinicians through dashboard. So we have predictive models, but we have also, in general, data analytics to show the data of patients, and the patient and the clinicians can give feedback to the patients, evaluating, deciding, prescribing, and communicating with the patients. Maybe it was somehow evident in the previous slides, but I want to highlight it here also. One of the pillars is really to empower patients, caregivers, and clinicians, provide tools for self-management with educational content, modules to report the symptoms, services to improve treatment adherence. We want to link with patients' association. We want to foster a healthy lifestyle, inform on the exposure to outdoor pollutants, and support emotional distresses. On the side of clinicians, since we want to support decision making, clinicians will be provided with these interactive dashboards, able to answer both population level at the single patient level to queries regarding the disease progression, variable distribution, stage of the disease, data of the specific patients. And such tool will integrate the update of patient status at home. We have chosen to use cost-effective, inclusive solutions. Our technologies are based on mobile apps, wearable sensors of the kind of the smartwatches, and of course, services will be personalized according to the specific disease, ALS or MS. We are also considering to extend the possible interaction mechanisms of the mobile app using low-cost EEG headbands, which are really low cost, and in any case, including tools for assisting the self-expression of the patients. And we are also monitoring the acceptance and utility of the apps through questionnaires and surveys. Sixth pillar, open science. In order to maximize the outcome, we are organizing some open evaluation challenges in which the scientific communities, but also industry can participate, trying to solve some specific problems. The first one has been already launched, and the results will be presented it's now running, and the first results will be presented in September in Bologna. We are sharing data, embracing the FAIR principle that makes the data findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. And in general, we are adding a citizen science perspective, involving patients and their associations in the decision-making process and in the design of the BRAINTEASER solutions. Finally, we want somehow to be part of the let's say of the this new perspective of AI used in the clinical settings. So our solutions embrace a human in command approach, where clinicians and patients maintain the right to overrule AI suggestions. We want our tools to be secure, but also accurate, reliable, and reproducibility. So we are focusing quite a lot on these model characteristics. We want the models to be transparent. AI must be explainable. We need to understand why a specific prediction is made by a model. Our data are collected in hospitals, so there is not a specific trial, and in this sense, they are not discriminant at all because they include the real patient population. We plan to monitor the effects of using our solutions. So we are monitoring both the benefits, also the possible risks of using AI in a clinical setting. And of course, we keep track of model performance in time and put in place mechanisms that ensure redress if needed, and this according also to the AI regulation. And all data are fully anonymized. I was mentioning before the AIR principle, but I want to highlight the fact that all the data are fully anonymized, and patients maintain always the property of the data and then always the right to exit the study and to withdraw the data if they wish. So this is all as a preliminary introduction to the project, and give the stage to Manuel Ottaviano, who is going to present something more specific about our technical solutions.
Thank you, Barbara. I will try to share the screen. Yes. Okay. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So good afternoon, everybody. So now we are going to go in more in depth on this project, and I would like to present you the end user solutions for patients and health professionals. Okay. So basically, what we in general in the task of the design and definition of patient and clinical tools, we adopt what is called user-centered design, a methodology that aims to involve users and stakeholders in the early phase of the design. And that's what we did in the past year, no? And also today, also this will be another opportunity to consolidate, to get idea, receive feedback, understand strength and weakness of our solution. So we work a lot on these co-design activities, and also in our plan, we decided to start focusing first on the delivery of our technology to gather data in order to start feeding our AI models, no, and testing and validating. And the second iteration, we are going to provide the full system with also the intervention and also with the integration of this AI model. I have to say that now we are in between the two phases. We just finalized this data collection delivery, and now we are in the phase of consolidating the previous version and also working on the design and the real use of the artificial intelligence. Okay, so basically just a quick recap of our system. So we would like to provide a patient app for MS and ALS patient, but also we would like to give some gadget to the user in order to track physical activities, sleep patterns, but also air quality, the the air quality that is around the user, okay? That could be indoor or outdoor. We want to collect all this data and collect in a platform, process this data in order to launch our AI models, and also provide this augmented information to the clinician through the clinical tools, okay? In which the user, the end user, that in this case will be nurses and neurologists, will be able to provide to perform a risk assessment, a remote risk assessment. We'll be able also to see the prognostic of the patient, and also to start this proactive service, that is remote service, through this type of telemonitoring system, and have established a communication with the patient, no? And also, in case that is necessary, also ask the user to go to the hospital for a visit, for instance. So the idea is to impact with this tool in the clinical practice, okay? On the other side, we would like to have patient at home, not using our system with sensors and also the app, and receiving psychological educational material, to feel to have a contact with the health professional, to have a tool to be in contact with the health professional, to inform of any type of symptoms, relapses, and then also to provide some support of mental well-being, like proposing some relaxing or mindfulness techniques, and also to train also the cognitive function of the users that in some cases are also deteriorated because of the progress of the disease. So if we are looking at the process behind this system, no? So we have two types of process, parallel process. We have one process that is the clinical one, and the other that is the patient using the system at home, no? So if you consider the clinical process, before to start using this system is necessary to select some patient according to specific criteria, but in general, in the consortium, we decide to have a very open selection criteria. So basically all the patient with MS and LS could join, okay? The enrollment procedure, okay, in which there are some bureaucratic and but very important aspect related to informed consent, to the information that also the patient receive. Then there is an initial assessment that is performed by the clinician through a comprehensive evaluation, and also with a consultation also of the past data in the clinical history. Then there is the personalization of the service, in the sense that we want to personalize specifically for every individual the services that we are going to provide. That could be like a personalization of educational content, or a personalization of suggested activities to perform during the day, or a personalization also of the follow-up. For instance, people that suffering from dysphagia can have specific tools to assess the dysphagia condition. And then after this personalization, the idea is to configure the device and to give this device to the patient. And then the patient will be able to go at home with this new technology and start using. From that, we are going to start the BRAINTEASER service that will be based on remote monitoring, okay? Because we are starting a data flow from the patient's home to the hospitals, so we can provide this remote monitoring. We can early detect, thanks to this artificial intelligence model, but also thanks to the possibility to early report signs or symptoms. The clinician will be able to early intervene, okay? And maybe to ask the patient to come for a visit, or to ask for a specific evaluation, or maybe just to make a phone call to be in contact with the patient. And this will improve also the clinical follow-up, and this also will be also complemented by other unexpected events that can be like hospitalization or other events of the people. Then on the other side, we have also the patient user using the system, that for sure we need to provide some support to the patient, because patient will start using the system at home, no? So we are going to provide a support for the first use, a guidance, I would say, no? And then we start the services of patient monitoring, in which the patient will be able to share subjective data or objective data through questionnaire, or through also the use of the wearable sensor. to also being able to access to specific and tailored digital intervention according to the disease course and according to the specific profile and preferences of the user, and then also to provide specific update to the health professional, and receive also specific feedback on recommendation on how to improve the management of the disease. Then, regarding the app, specifically, we have from the beginning of the project this type of user interaction requirement. No, we need to design an app that should be accessible, because this target population may suffer also of some type of impairment that limited, for instance, dexterity, the vision, or also cognitive impairment. So we have to consider this as a very important requirement to be considered. It's a transversal requirement that affect really the use of the system, okay? And so we decide to try to find a way to design a simple navigation structure to also even balance content and functionalities, to also something that should be adaptable to the two types of disease, because they are different also, and it's not the same MS and ALS. So, and also to design this application for a long-term usage. We are thinking that we want to ask user to use it at least 1 year, okay? And so for this reason, we were starting thinking on this overall design strategy, no? And we come up with this type of solution, no? This is also some home screen of the app, in which we have very simple menu with like 3 basic functionalities. No, one related to the health, in which the patient can check the overall status of the reported symptoms, the chart, the trends of the health evolution. Then there is another section related to suggested activities, and a contact in which it will be possible to contact some stakeholders. Okay. And then we have also some kind of widget. One is this widget that is mostly related with the weather and air pollution, because then I will explain why. And then also some kind of dynamic contents that the app will trigger according to the specific situation of the patient. That could be maybe the time to fill a questionnaire, or there is some suggested activities. Okay. So basically, if you go just more in deep on the specific functionality in the My Health, so it's possible to see some type of evolution. That we also implement a protocol for the follow-up, for the remote follow-up of the patients. And we discuss all this protocol with the clinician. And just to summarize here, you have this very ugly table, I think, but I hope that will be meaningful, that try to explain what we are gathering through standard measure, okay, standard clinical measure. These are instruments that are used in the clinical practice. Now we would like to assess the emotional distress, the symptoms, the quality of life, the functional assessment of the disease, well-being, sleep, also the sexuality for the case of the MS, and also other 3 specific, 2 specific dimensions, dysphagia, menstrual cycle, specifically for the MS. So we have this protocol that we discussed and revised with the expert in the consortium. Then also we have this most engaging functionality, because the first one is mostly related to the data collection. No, it's something that is important. What will be very important on the previous session will be the symptoms. No, there will be the opportunity to early report the symptoms to the health professional. But in this section, the activities section, I expect that this will be more interactive and more engaging, because in this part we are going to propose activities to the patient. Okay, activities could be like mindfulness, physical exercise, tailored according to the disease course and the fitness capacity of the user. Some rehabilitation exercise, breathing exercise, very useful for ALS case. Some brain training, and then some specific educational material that could be personalized according to the disease and the stage. So educational content, and some frequently asked questions. So for this case the part of the intervention, now we decide to focus on 2 big aspect. No, for the ALS case, for sure, we would like to add, a support, other interaction support, because there are some user profiles that cannot use the mobile phone. So we decide to start testing and evaluating this type of facial mouse interaction using the camera of the mobile. And this is something that is also is not included in our system, but is like a tool that is already existing, and in Spain is also already used by the ALS people. Okay, this is a application that is for free, that allows the use of to have the full control of the mobile phone through the camera. No? So you can move and select the button using just the camera. And then also this will be a very important tool for the people of ALS patient with a significant progress of the disease. Then for sure we would like to focus also on voice analysis in order to early detect voice pattern deterioration. And then also dexterity assessment to assess the dexterity, and we are thinking on solution to using the touchpad of the app, no, and to try to assess the level of dexterity of the hand dexterity. And then for sure the cognitive games. Here we have previous research done in a project called Hoop, in which we already have some cognitive games and also some dexterity games that we would like to start benchmark and check if it will be possible, is feasible to be used by this type of patient. For the multiple sclerosis case, we would like to mainly focusing on physical activity and also on the dexterity assessment and the cognitive games. So this will be our priorities of interventions. No. Then also we have this last session on contact. We want to make user feeling that they are not alone. Okay, we want to give this opportunity, to be in contact with the specialists, be in contact with patient association, but also be in contact and share the data with other experts, with other clinicians that the patient might need to involve during this process of care. So in this functionality, we would like to give this full control of to the patient, or to the communication, but also on sharing the data that they own. Then also we have a solution for the eye profession that I presented at the beginning of the slide. So for these are called clinical tools. It's a web-based solution. We design like a multi-center solution. So this is a system that is able to manage different type of hospital and different type of clinical unit with different type of patients, and providing kind of separate access for the disease. Okay, here we have this at the beginning of when a user is enrolled, there are this comprehensive evaluation, and here I would like just to share also what we are collecting, as in general, as initial evaluation, but also in general, this information will be also collected time to time, the ones that are relevant. So we have some initial information about patient profile, informed consent. We also ask the consent of the caregiver in case that we would like to share also the app with the caregiver. Then some information, diagnostic information, phenotype, progress of disease, specific for the two diseases. There are different type of information, but somehow similar, And then there are some specific instrument used to assess the clinical the function of the user. That could be ALS, FRS, and the DSS for the case of MS. Then some cognitive assessment with two different type of instruments. A different instrumental evaluation that for the case of ALS is the respiratory test, and for the case of MS is the MRI test. Then also other type of assessment like medical treatment, also the evaluation of the physical capacity and also dexterity of the user, then other clinical data like comorbidity, other type of medication and treatments, and then also some lifestyle information. And also we use all this information, as you can see, it's very huge amount to personalize the services. Okay, and all this information will be also merged with the information that we are going to receive in from the app and from the sensor. So you can just, I would like to share the amount and the different type of data that we are sharing here in this project, no? So here then this type of personalization. So as I told you before, yes, we have some initial idea, but really also we have a full intense protocol of possible contents and services that we would like to perform, like breathing exercise support, speech exercise, test, assessment of the fitness, so the agility test, promotion of physical activity, cognitive games. So we have a very big amount of services that we would like to provide, and for that, our strategy will be first to try to use something that in past already work. We don't want to reinvent the wheel first, and then for sure to co-design and to supervise this process thanks to the clinicians, no? Because it also is important to deliver credible content and credible services on that. Then just to make a little recap also on the app connectivity, no? See here there are different, so this is an app, but really there are a lot of other devices that are working and interacting with this, no? So with this wearable sensor, we choose this Garmin device, Vivo Watch 4 or 4S models. Then we have this air quality portable monitor, this AtmoTube Pro. And then we have also the idea to use, for the case of ALS, also spirometer. That would be a very good asset to early assess this, the worsening, you know, of the function of the respiratory capacity of the patients, and then also some other tool to foster the interaction in case that we have some patient with some difficulties to use the touch screen interaction. You know, that will be using like this camera facial mouse, or to even use this type of portable EEG headband. Then this is more or less the status. So what we have in mind now? We are in the stage of designing and discussing internally how to shape the clinical tool. This will be the delivery that we're going to make in the next year, at the end of this year, month 24. So we would like to provide this to enhance all this data collection and data visualization, with also some very specific services to promote and manage the user adherence, the early management of the symptoms that are very important, and then also defining the clinical use of the AI tools, no? To find a way to properly visualize, no, the prognostic model and disease trajectory, but also to properly visualize how we are going to stratify the patient, how we are going to show the risk and communicate the risk to the physician. Then on the other side, on the app, we are discussing, as I tell you, this type of techniques, no, to deliver what we call it intervention, that basically can be considered as part of try to assess remotely the condition using also novel means that could different from standard questionnaires, like to use the touch screen, for instance, for us to assess the physical activity, or to use wearable sensor to assess the level of physical activity, the voice, to even being able to assess the voice for the case of ALS patients, and then for sure to provide content and activities to improve the overall well-being, more specific content to how to face with the disease, other interaction modalities, as I told you before, and then also to continuously work with the end user, to refine to refine this solution. And this year, this month, we are going to start also the interview in the clinical, in the hospitals with patients and health professionals to continuously refine. And with this, I'm done. And I think that now, I don't know if from the...
I can take it from here, then, Manuel.
Okay.
Thanks. Okay, so I will share my screen. Can you see my screen? Yes. Okay, great. So good afternoon, everyone. My name is Alessia Baretta. I'm a product manager at In Silico Trials and a BRAINTEASER Innovation and Exploitation Manager. So today I will present something about the innovation approach and exploitation challenges. So we saw from Barbara's and Manuel's presentations that this project is very complex, ambitious, and we have a range of exploitable outputs that I listed here. There will be data and project results that will be non-marketable but still exploitable from the European Commission definition. So we will have clinical data, sensor data, environmental data, and possibly open challenges data. So many different types of data, as Manuel was underlining. Then we will have AI models that will be marketable and will be models for ALS and MS, but also for personal exposure to pollutants. And then we will have the patients and the professionals and patients tool that Manuel just showed. There will be software and mobile apps and web-based, cloud-based solutions. So an ambitious project to exploit many different outputs built by a unique consortium with many different expertise that will be able to provide a collaboration to make this happen. So we have 4 clinical centers, Madrid, Torino, Lisbon, and Pavia, 4 partners, experts in AI, applied on healthcare and biology with specific applications to ALS and MS in Padova, Torino, Portugal, again, and Pavia, and then 1 partner expert in semantic data modeling and enrichment in the University of Padova, and 1 partner expert of ICT-based services and applications in Madrid. Then we have 2 small medium enterprise partners, specifically IST, In Silico Trials, that is creating a cloud-based platform to provide user-friendly and cost-effective computational solutions. In Silico Trials, of which I am part, will be also the leader of the innovation and exploitation activities, and we will also manage the quality and risk management in this project. And then BELIT will be devoted to the implementation and the management of large-scale innovative software projects. And last but not least, we have 2 international non-profit organizations, ECH Alliance and the European Brain Council, that are facilitating this multi-stakeholder project that needs, of course, connection between the partners. So the project has many innovation elements. First of all, the integration of many different types of patient-generated data, as we have seen, that will be collected through the mobile apps and through the wearable devices that you have seen just before. Also, there will be tools able to dynamically model the entire disease progression over time, so going also beyond the state of the art, and able to monitor the evolution of the pathology in the patients. Also, software and mobile apps are built embracing a user-centered design approach so that all the user needs can be taken into account, and a very user-friendly interface and user experience can be set up. AI as a service will be a new kind of business model that we will bring to the users, and basically we will convert models into cloud-based products that will be used by patients, clinicians, and pharma companies. A selection of these models will be also validated following the requirements of software as medical device. So some products will also be suitable to follow the path of software as medical device certification towards FDA and European notified bodies. Finally, result disseminations will be also according to an open science paradigm following the European guidelines to open science, so that solutions can be open to the research community in ALS and MS field. So the exploitation of the project will be based on a new business with health apps and software as a service solutions able to design and deploy Internet of Things application very quickly and efficiently, so that users, patients and clinicians can benefit from these technologies, very innovative technologies, in a very simple way. So what are the exploitation challenges? There are some that we have indicated in this list. Of course, the first one is to guarantee the results delivery towards the market and towards the scientific community. So make the outcome of the project made really useful for the community, and also really commercialized towards the market. And then provide the deliverable sustainability, so that we can also obtain measurable clinical and societal impact. And as also Barbara was mentioning, that the AI models need to be trusted. So we need we can see it as a challenge to build trust, acceptance, and utility in AI models, so that patients and clinicians can really benefit from all these tools. Then we, of course, we need to generate an acceptable cultural turn to adopt a different model of care in the medical society. And finally, more technical one, but still very important, to guarantee the cybersecurity and data ownership of the data to the patients in a system that is able to guarantee data privacy, but also conjugate the data privacy with the possibility of sharing information, so that, as we saw, patients and clinicians can be in contact. And we will also fit an open data scenario. So these projects includes many different partners. We have 2 commercial partners that allow effectively the implementation of a commercial exploitation by bringing experience on a commercial area, and also an industry vision. Exploitation will not be just commercial, as we said, will be also towards the community. And will follow the European guidelines for dissemination and exploitation. Finally, so today we set the stage for the discussion. This is a first of a series of 4 focus group webinars with the community members, potential customers, and users of BRAINTEASER. So, and also towards the end of the projects, there will be an exploitation workshop with industrial and clinical stakeholders to validate the exploitation roadmap and also identify feasible exploitation routes. So what is interesting today is to start this discussion, to start this co-design of possible exploitation routes, and I will be happy to hear the thoughts of the audience, and of course there will be the plenary discussion to start this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Alessia, and I take the floor now. First of all, I would like to thank all the invited speakers for coming to this session today, that, as Alessia anticipated, is going to be the first one of a series of 4 that we expect to be happening during the lifetime of this project. But even if we are still in the preliminary stages to define an exploitation route for some of the products that you have heard during the session that are going to be the main results of the project, we would like to set up at least the initial steps in the exploitation route, in order to have a more clear view coming from the different stakeholders that we have identified as key representatives in this exploitation panorama. So we have, I am not sure that I have got all the speakers in this session. I am not sure if we got somebody from Fundación Luzón, because I don't see the names in the screen.
Yes,
So,
I am Patricia Jarabo and I come from
Patricia.
Fundación.
I just read communication, so I wanted to be sure that somebody from Fundación Luzón was also present. Okay, thank you. So we count with a very good, let's say, panel of representatives of these different stakeholders. And I would like to thank also Catherine that you joined in the very last moment for and I hope that you have gotten some insights on what BRAINTEASER is about, because for sure we have some question for you as well. So I would like to start with those of you representing patients and medical professionals. So this is the case of Fundación Luzón that Patricia is here representing, and also there is Andrea Caffo from the European Organization for Professionals and Patients with ALS. So the first question for you should be, why may your organization or your, let's say, patients, professionals will be willing to use BRAINTEASER and you know, incorporate them into the clinical practice? So maybe Patricia, if you can, please.
Sure. Well, definitely, I think this is a great project and it could be very helping for the patients. And I think probably they need constant support, and to have this constant supervision could be very, they could feel very care. But one thing I miss in this project is there are no connection with the relatives or the patient taking care of the patient. So I think it's important to be in contact with the clinicians, but it's like there are no any pathway or any link with the person taking care of the patients. I miss this. I don't know.
I think that maybe Manuel forgot to mention.
No, yeah, I just quickly mentioned, so at this stage, we would like to consider, we also included this also under the regulatory point of view, no? Because during the inclusion, we ask the patient if he or she want to include a caregiver, no, in this type of service. Then it is true that at this stage, the app is not so much personalized for the caregiver. The idea will be also to create specific content for the caregiver.
Yes, I understand, but maybe if with this project you want to give information to the clinicians about the current state of the patients, maybe if there are some alert, you need to alert also to the relatives.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. What type of alert? Because we were discussing this, and we consider very interesting, for instance, to study the burden of the caregiver. That is something that is not, there are not so much systematic studies in literature. But what do you think about this type of alert? What do you suggest?
I don't know, maybe there are some respiratory problem or during the night, I don't know.
Also the caregiver, no? This is, you're talking about.
Yes. Okay. I mean, to give an alert to the caregiver in the moment there is one of these alerts or health problems. It's not only to have a softer health problem to give this information to the clinicians, but also to give immediately the alert to the caregiver.
Okay, I understand. So you mean that, so to have not also a monitoring platform, I would say, no, in which the caregiver can see that, for instance, the worsening of the condition of.
Exactly.
Okay. Yes, this is something that we have to discuss internally. I think that in this month we are going to start this focus group in the hospital, and most probably we also have the caregiver, and we would like also to refine. I will bring this type of idea in that workshop to further discuss. So thank you for your suggestion.
Okay, also I would like to know if you have any idea about to link this project with the clinical trials. One of the main concerns of the patients is to be accepted in clinical trials. So maybe in this way, you can give the clinicians the information about the clinical history and the clinical situation of the patients, so they can find easily the group they need. But also in the other way around, in which the patient can have the information about the clinical trials they can join.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is, I mean, it's a very good opportunity, because I understand that from this field is very, this is, I mean, to join a study with a new and promising treatment is something that is very, you know, but here also for the business point of view, no, there is the need to also involve the stakeholder like pharma from one side, no, maybe to be available. So, and on that, I don't know, because now we are in this sense, I mean, in the phase of research, no, like independent research for open to all the public, you know, and I don't know then how could be the business adaptation to that type of business, because I understand that this will be also mostly a service for the pharma that want to test new treatments, but then for sure the patient will also take advantage of that. No, but
yes, I mean, I have every day requirements from the patients about possible clinical trials to join. So they really want to join a clinical trial and invest in science and in the research, to participate, to collaborate in any way. So I think this could be a very good possibility for them, because sometimes it's not very easy for them to find information.
Mm-hmm. Yes, this is a very. I saw similar initiative in the field of cancer, but not in this field. It's a very nice suggestion also.
So I saw you have this option about the contacts and send the information to another doctor, but maybe usually when the past patient asks me about other doctors, it's not because they want another opinion, it's because they want to join a clinical trial.
Yes. So on that, we need to build a like sort of network of research and kind of repository with all these type of studies and opportunities in order to refer specifically a patient to a specific hospital that is making a specific study. No? Yeah, I understand. This is something that we should discuss internally, because also we have this concept of the community of practice, no? That try to somehow also maximize this knowledge by generating local and also virtual communities to share information. And if you're telling that this is one of the most requested information, most probably we have to consider this and also try to discuss how to maybe share this in our community of practice. So I also will take note of this second very nice suggestion.
Thank you a lot, Patricia. Maybe Andrea, you can also give us your view on this.
Yes, thank you. So first of all, I want to congratulate for this initiative, because it's really outstanding. Absolutely. Why we should use it is because it can really add value in the way the patients are treated. Because one of the general problems that we have with the patients and the clinicians is that the interactions are not so often, do not happen so often, and not always on a regular basis. This solution can overcome this kind of problem, because there is always a continuous interaction. And so this is, for me, it's one of the most added value of this solution as a general statement. And then in particular, I'm fully aligned with what Patricia said, I guess, because one of the business opportunity for you, maybe it could be a kind of spin-off at the very first part, when you create this kind of stratification of patients, because the inclusion and exclusion criteria for the clinical trials are very well defined at the EMEA level, but the pharma sponsor do not always apply that inclusion criteria. So it's now a kind of regular use rule to exclude people having symptoms for more than 18 months or 24 months. But this is a not written rule. I know there are some discussion going on with tricals and ankles, and I guess Ruben van Dijk, one of the researchers, has published a study about a new approach to include or exclude patients from clinical trials. And there is a forecasting model to evaluate how the disease will progress. And I think it's what you are also doing at the very first step. So I really align with what Patricia said on this. And also about the other added value is the continuous monitoring that can provide the input to the clinicians to adjust the therapy. So if we see a worsening of some condition, the breathing condition, the most important, then maybe the doctor can suggest a different type of therapy, a different type of, I don't know, breathing machine, stuff like that.
Thank you, Andrea. Thank you so much. I can see also that we have Ana Cristina and Blanca. I don't know if you are representing the multiple sclerosis platform.
My English is not too well. I've been listening to you. We are techniques from the Gerencia Adjunta in Madrid hospitals, and the only one I want to say is to congratulate this project, because I think it's very, very interesting, and we can, no sé cómo decirlo. I think, es que no sé cómo decirlo.
En español y yo lo puedo traducir.
Vale, lo siento, María. Es que para hablar en inglés soy bastante mala. Lo he entendido bastante bien, pero para hablarlo muy mal. Quiero decir que me parece un proyecto muy interesante, que realmente creo que abre un futuro muy esperanzador, tanto en la investigación como en la atención de estos pacientes con estos problemas neurodegenerativos. Y la verdad es que lo que quería decir es daros la enhorabuena. Nosotros somos representantes de la Gerencia de Hospitales de la Comunidad de Madrid, y nos ha invitado a la reunión el doctor Muñoz Blanco, que es el neurólogo del Gregorio Marañón. Disculpad por no haber sido capaz de decirlo en inglés. Disculpad.
No hay problema. Lo voy a traducir. De todos modos, hay mucho italiano, portugués. Creo que están asintiendo de que
I'm so sorry, I don't speak English to express what I want to say.
Okay. So basically, they are representing the Madrid hospital system, and they wanted to congratulate us on this initiative, and they are really want to promote us and push us to continue in this endeavor. Okay, great. So now I would like to move to the other. We have also perspective from the industry. We have with us Peter Gu. He's the CEO of Asus Cloud, and I want to say, first of all, Happy New Year and Happy Chinese New Year because it's today, and he really joined our workshop, and also for the time difference because he's in Taiwan. So we are really grateful, and thank you for joining this workshop today. And you know that one of the things that Manuel presented, and also you could see from Alessia's and Barbara presentation, is how we integrate different wearable devices into our application development. So so in this way, we are the reason why we consider your opinion is really interesting and important is about how we are integrating these devices that are coming from Garmin, and that is now part of ASUS as well. So how do you think that we can, I mean, your company can license this kind of kits for development, the SDKs, to our to projects like BRAINTEASER?
Okay, thank you, Chiki, and happy Chinese New Year, guys. My name is Peter, comes from Taiwan, and it's the honor to be invited to this workshop and learn from this new program. And in Taiwan, we did many research that integrate lifestyle signals that help us to do medical AI recently. So for I can share some parts that may be helpful to you. The first thing is, you know that we provide SDKs that can provide medical IoT signals more easier. And as we see that there are many more devices that can provide more sophisticated signals, like I wonder if you know that we can measure blood pressure, and we can measure blood oxygen recently in in our new product. And sorry, I'm a little bit nervous. But aside seeing Manuel's presentation, I believe the program has good. I'm sorry. Chiki, maybe later.
Yes, I think that we understand more or less what you are trying to say. In fact, that's the point, and we would like to interact more, you know, with your company. I mean, with your researchers, because somehow we are really trusting this kind of devices, because we consider they are a very good source of data that we can directly incorporate into our development. So far, we have been working with these Garmin devices that Manuel presented, and we think that maybe even we can move to a further, you know, we know that there are new devices being developed, and new sorry, I got an interruption here, new devices that are going to be produced. So maybe in the near future we can start collaborating more closely to solve, you know, technical issues that sometimes appear when we integrate this kind of devices. So I very much appreciate that you offer this to the project, and definitely we are looking forward for this collaboration. I also have some questions for. We have also some regulatory questions, and we have here Daniele Bolatti from IMQ as a product reviewer and a lead auditor from IMQ. Okay, I see you in my screen, on my screen. So one of the things, as you have heard, is the use of artificial intelligence, as a medical device. So this is something that we are we have to provide a roadmap, and we want really to at the end of the project to have some let's say results that really cope with different regulations and can be, let's say, manufactured as a medical device. So one of the things that we were wondering is what kind of documentation, what kind of requirements are needed in this implementation of this software as a medical device certification. So if you can provide us with some insights, so because we know that this has to be started from the very beginning, and so if you can please comment or elaborate on this.
Yeah, good afternoon to everybody, and I also want to congratulate you for the very outstanding project. I'm a lead auditor and expert of regulation, of European regulation for medical devices certification. As you, of course, know, for placing on the market a medical device, and your product will be a medical device, is necessary to obtain the CE mark certification. And this certification is going to be obtained through a very long process and complicated process with the involvement of the so-called notified bodies. These notified bodies are private entities that are going to verify the technical documentation of the medical devices, and are going to also provide on-site specific audit at the manufacturer's premises. So I don't know if the project is to one of the objectives of this project is to create a spin-off. The audit, the on-site audit will be will be performed at the spin-off premises. But what I want to underline, what I would like to underline is that as for the clinical trial, I was wondering before when you were talking about the clinical trials and inclusion, exclusion criteria, the target population. These are all very important aspects to define from the beginning, because if you are setting up a clinical trial, one of the first one of the most important aspects that the future notified body will assess is clinical data. Clinical data can derive from clinical trial and literature, for instance, bibliography. But if they come from a clinical trial, this clinical trial have to follow definitely some very strict standards. One of the most important standards for clinical trials in medical device is ISO 14155. So there are some very strict and specific rules that have to be followed, and also all the collected data, clinical data, must be commented, analyzed, and organized in a structured documentation that is called clinical evaluation. The clinical evaluation should be then assessed by the notified bodies, And this is a very detailed process. So what I can suggest to you is to define from the beginning what are the objective and the clinical benefits that your product is going to deliver to the patients, and set up very clearly the objectives of the clinical trials, because the notified bodies will assess all the claims, all the claims of the products, and all the let's say clinical benefits. Every clinical benefit that is claimed must be demonstrated through clinical data. So this is something that I think has to be kept into account from the beginning. Let's now now we are in the medical device sector, regulatory sector, in a transition phase. I mean, a very new legislative framework has been has begun from May 2021. That is Regulation 745, and this regulation set up very complex and stricter requirements for medical devices, and especially for AI and software products. So there are a lot of requirements that are reported in the regulation, but also in several guidances that are issued from the European Commission subgroups. So you have to. Well, I think this aspect should be considered from the beginning in the design phase. I mean, also the usability aspects will be assessed from the notified body perspective. So not only clinical data. I will. I think that from the regulatory point of view, three aspects are to be considered. The first is clinical data. So we have talked about clinical data, the definition of very strict clinical benefits and objectives. The usability aspects for this platform, I think this is another key point. And also for this aspect, there are some specific standards. And the other one is the the description of the technical specification of this product that consequently could bring to a different type of classification in terms of risk class of medical device. So this is another very important aspect.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Daniele. Thank you so much. If we now go to the ethical side, let's say we have here representatives from the Nursing School of Coimbra. We have Sofia Ortet, and then we have a representative from the Center for the Study of Bioethics from Belgrade, is Bojin Drakic. Sofia, I would like to ask you about the liability of AI. So do you think that the adoption of AI systems are related to the clarity of the liability issues? What do you think about these liability aspects?
Hello, Maria. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for the invitation. I also congratulate the project. It's an ambitious and quite high-aimed project, so congratulations for that. Regarding your question, yes, of course, I think that the clarity of liability is a very important issue. Users will not be able to adhere and to trust their data and their health to a solution, to an AI-based solution that doesn't consider the liability of the outcomes and of the results, of its own results. So I would say that it's important from a user perspective that eventual malfunctions or eventual risks related to the solution can be eventually thought about in an anticipated way, and that eventual liability can be drawn from the start, from a design phase in the project, in order for them to know that if something goes wrong for any reason, and also if I may add a small remark regarding the incidental findings, for instance, we are not talking only about things that we can foresee eventually, but also about eventual information that comes with the data collection through the system and through all the remaining devices that we're talking about here, and that may not be under the specific purpose of the project and the goals of the interventions, but may be clinical relevance. So it would be important also probably to think about that incidental findings and to probably plan an incidental finding policy in order to ensure this. And these parentheses, I closed it already, also contributes to the liability. I would say it's important for the user to know that either any eventual malfunction eventually, either at the manufacturing stage or at a later stage, can be eventually anticipated, can be thought about in a previous stage, and that an initial plan or at least an initial drawing action regarding that, those malfunctions can be later, can be foreseen from the start. So of course, clarity of liability is very much important for the success of the solution and the adherence of the users.
Thank you, Sophia. Thank you. Maybe I can also direct a question to Bojin related also with all this regulation, the regulations that are happening in healthcare about the Digital Act, the medical device regulation, the data space. So do you think that all these regulations will promote or on the other side constitute barriers for these brain teaser innovations that Alessia already depicted?
Good afternoon to all, and congratulations also from my part for this truly impressive project. I'm not saying it for pro forma, but because I'm really impressed by what I hear. It's quite difficult to answer your question for two reasons. In my case, because I'm not a lawyer, but an ethicist, so regulation and so on is not the first field of my, the primary field of my knowledge. And secondly, you asked the question rather generally, whether regulation. In general, if you would like me to answer your question, in general, I'm more. I'm not a big fan of regulation in general, but okay, that's my worldview. But in this case, I think it especially in these initial stages of this project, I think as much regulation as is possible would be desirable. I think in certain fields, first, or in most fields, first ethical issues have to be cleared up as much as possible. I see that you raised various issues, and regulation is in fact, or should be, codification of these ethical issues. So the ethical issues I see, the one that has been mentioned by my predecessor, Dr. Sofia Ortel. I don't have to add anything to that. I agree with that what she said concerning incidental findings. The another speaker mentioned before that there is a discrepancy sometimes between the motivation and medical needs for being included and the interests of pharma to include people. So from an ethical standpoint, I would say push as much as you can for those medical criteria to get primacy over financial criteria, because that's the ethical thing to do. The other issues I've noticed, I know you have certainly thought about them, but let me say a few things about them. The first one is safety, and that is a very important issue, because what is safety? What is safe enough? Nothing is safe, completely safe. It's not certain that I will end this conversation alive, for instance. Nothing is absolutely certain. So, but what is safe enough? That ought to be defined. So safe is not enough to say it's safe. And it's a mistake that is mistake. It's a common practice among bioethicists to say, okay, as long as this, for instance, concerning enhancement technologies, as long as this enhancement is safe and effective, it's ethical. But safe to what degree? Nothing is completely safe. So defining safety as precise as you can. I know it's very difficult. Concerning privacy, I think I don't see an immediate problem there. I think you have, as far as I can see, solved that issue more or less. Another question are so-called, of course, vulnerable groups. So what to do with them? So before that, in fact, comes the question of the relationship between the user and the clinician. So you mentioned, some of the speakers mentioned at the beginning that long-term worldviews are taken into account. So what if an assessment of the patient's long-term worldviews that are his or her views, how she would like to live or end her life or whatever. So if there is a discrepancy between what the clinician thinks and what the user thinks, that's concerning non-vulnerable groups, but here all groups are vulnerable, of course, all patients. But if we take, for instance, children or mentally impaired people, to use that term, what are their rights? So that is also something that needs to, you may get such a question. So my modest advice would be define these issues that you can define as precisely as possible, but leave also always room for, because this is at such a stage that too much regulations and too much precisely defined criteria are also not desirable. So in these issues, some of which I mentioned, I recommend go as much as you can in defining the criteria, no matter how difficult it is in this case. So thank you.
Thank you, Bojin. I see Sofia's hand raised. Maybe you want to add on this?
Just two small remarks also from Vohin's speech. I also reminded that it will be important. Of course, I'm sure that you already envisaged the main security and safety aspects in terms of ethical perspective of protecting vulnerable users or vulnerable people, as would be the patients with ALS or ANMS. But I'm also reminding that one of the speakers mentioned that you're planning to use several wearables and data coming from different sensors. So I was wondering if it was considered that those devices must be chosen considering that their GDPR compliance regarding also their data collection, data storage, data transfer and processing issues. That would also be an ethical and legal issue to be considered. I see Manuel. Maybe you could add something on this. Maybe you mentioned it briefly. I didn't understand it, but also to just add from a user perspective that people feel safer and feel more secure when they are clearly and explicitly informed, and that may be done through the informed consent, of course, and through the ethical approvals that each country where the clinical trials will be happening. But they actually will feel safer and more secure if they feel that they are clearly aware and also somehow in control of the data they're sharing, what it is used for, and sharing and with whom. So giving the user the possibility through the app, I'm saying, through the digital solutions, to eventually choose or be able to decide if I want to share my data with my informal carer or with this specific kind of data with my clinician, of course, safeguarding the purposes of the trials, of course, or if I do not have that possibility, I must be clearly informed of my possibilities and what I am fighting for when I provide my informed consent. Just to say that. Sorry. Thank you, Maria.
Thank you, Sophia, because time is running and I don't want to miss that Catherine joined us, and I have a question for her. So the last question related to standardization and her work in HL7, obviously. So we know all the advances that HL7 Fire is bringing to the healthcare and to the work being done for the adoption of the International Patient Summary for the management of these unexpected medical situations. So we would like to hear your advice on the way the different brain teaser solutions that you have heard more or less from what has been commented during the discussion, how this solution could reach different markets like in silico trials, secondary use of data for drug development or tailored interventions, personalized medicine solutions integrated into apps, etc. So what can you advise us for this?
Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for inviting me in such a beautiful group of thought leaders. And I'm not sure that I can give any more advice than what you already know and do in this fantastic project. What I can probably give you is a little bit higher, actually, view. As part of the European Federation of Medical Informatics working group on One Digital Health, we are looking at how to connect this huge area that is called One Health, which connects the health of people with the health of animals and the environment in one cycle that is uninterrupted. With digital technologies. And now digital technologies become the catalyst that can deliver substantial services. Of course, consent is very important when people are giving their data. standards as well in the way that we create APIs that can communicate the information from sensors that are low cost to devices that we all have and monitor our activities, to our mood or the mood of the community. I mean, you can think of devices that are put in parks where people will press a button expressing their mood. And correlating that with other environmental circumstances, and even perhaps some fingerprint of the person that actually provided the data. So the world is full of possibilities, and the part about ethics is extremely important. I guess in a nutshell, and in this picture, I can now draw two small elements that standardization can contribute to. The first one is public and open APIs that are quality assured, yeah, and that's where 807 Fire is making a huge effort to cater to. The second part is the design of a framework where institutions can provide the data in a safe and responsible manner. And there we have done some work on research data organizations that are FHIR compliant. Yeah, this is a case where you not only tag a data set as being standard or curated, to use a more wide word, but you're actually making sure that the institution has the infrastructure to provide a series of these data, yeah, and participate perhaps in larger studies or connect with other sources for the sake of health research and innovation in the wider sense. So these two views, the view of the fine-grained interfaces and the view of the organizational, so to speak, tag, yeah, quality assurance or labeling, I think these are important for the exploitation of results like those of BRAINTEASER. I hope I have given you something useful.
Definitely, Catherine. So because time is already 3 minutes, we passed 3 minutes out of the time that we have planned. So I cannot recap on everything, but I just want to say thank you. You have provided a lot of new insights, and that will be taken on board, definitely. Please be there for us because I'm sure that we will call you back for our future exercises on exploitation. Thank you so much. First, before ending, I want a picture of also all the participants. If you can switch on your cameras just for a picture that for our social media and our, you know, it's very important also because we don't see each other face to face. I mean, face to face, yes, but not presential, let's say. So at least we can share pictures.
Okay. Ready, steady? Yeah, let's go. Let me take another one, just a second. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thank you for your really good contributions and excellent contributions. And we hope to see each other soon. And have a nice day. Have a nice starting of the year, Peter. And bye-bye.
New year.
Yeah. Bye, Peter.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
For Taiwan, happy Chinese New Year.
Bye.
Bye.